Hello, everyone. It's Friday once again. So, you know what that means. It's time for another edition of Artisan Weekly, 97 now. So, what's been happening this week? Lots of interesting things. It's been incredibly hot here in the UK. And yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to end. Um, the Laracon US videos have been released throughout the week. So, if you didn't get a chance to watch those, head over to the Laravel YouTube, and they should all be there by now. And yeah, plenty of really good reads this week. So let's head over to this week's top 10. So, in first place, we've got one of those talks that I was just talking about. So, this one's from Matt Stauffer. If you don't know Matt, he's the CEO of Titan, a well known Laravel agency in America. So, this one, Matt talks about how he went about building Voxacon, which was one of the puzzles that he built for Laracon. So every year, Laracon US, they try to do something like a puzzle, things like that. So he talks through like how he went about doing that using AI in a language that he'd never used before. So 3.js, obviously JavaScript, but he never used 3.js before. And he kind of went through the steps that he used to do that. So it's quite interesting to see how he went about doing it. And like I said, since the last 3 months he's been working on this. So yeah, if you didn't get to play it, you still should be able to see that. But yeah, it was a fun little thing. And then next up, we have this post by Michael. Now, we all love a good testing story, and this one, as you say, this should have been a really easy upgrade for him. They were upgrading their apps testing suite to use Pest 5, which was just released because they wanted to use the new tier engine. And what should have been a really simple upgrade turned into a bit of a nightmare. And yeah, as he kind of highlights in the title, exit was the problem. So you might come across this yourself in your testing, or when you're doing an upgrade. So it's definitely a post that's worth reading just for that. Next up then, we've got this post by Helg. Now this is just a fun little one, as he digs through the PHP source code and kind of shows you a few of the little hidden gems. Quite interesting, the April Fool's elephant that appears on April Fool's. I've never seen that one before. Yeah, so if there's some fun little things that go on in the source code, and he just highlights a few of them there. Next up then, we've got this post here by Sean. Now this one talks about embracing the framework, using the tools that the framework has to help you improve your code bases. So his example here is talking about a checkout service. It might have a number of steps before you can, before the checkout is complete. Like validating address, reserving stock, applying contract pricing, the things that he's highlighting there. Now, what starts off as a small service might have one or two steps, could end up growing into this massive service with loads of little, loads of calls like this. So he talks about moving this over to a pipeline, which is a really nice way of doing this. We use pipelines in a number of applications, and they make it really easy for you to add steps in. So it's a separate class. That pipeline does one thing and one thing only. It's a nice small class, and then you kind of, as it shows you, you move on to the next thing. So if you've never used pipelines and you've got a service class that perhaps looks like this, it might be worth reviewing that and seeing if you can move it over to pipes. Next up then, we've got this new double testing library. So Jason McCreary, who does Laravel Shift, has been working on this. It's called Double. So if you head over to testdoublephp.com, you can go about using this. We haven't had a go with this yet, but as you know, Jason, he does a lot of really cool things with Shift. So we know that the quality of this library is going to be really good. So if you're a big tester and you like doubles, this one is a good one to look at. Then next up, we've got Brent, who walks us through some of the PHP 8.6 features that are coming and what is going to be leaving PHP. So obviously, if you are not keeping abreast of the things that are going on, this is a great little video to watch to kind of get you updated, ready for when this release happens in November. Next up then, we've got Wilbur here. So this post talks about we're all using, well, not all, but a number of us are using Laravel Herd. We're probably using Git Worktrees. We do use them, but one of the problems obviously you get with that is when you do a Git work tree, you still, there's still one database, there's still one vendor folder, there's still these things. And what happens then is you run a migration in this Git work tree, it applies it to the database, and your other tree is still using that database as well. You're gonna have issues. So Wilbur's developed this CLI tool called WT, which allows you then to basically create a full, it's like a full environment then with your work tree. So it'll create a new database, those vendor folders, node modules, the env file will all be there ready for you. So yeah, it's a nice little tool, and hopefully it's going to save a lot of that headaches when you're using Git work trees with Laravel Herd. Next up then, we've got this one by Chris. So Chris demonstrates how he got the build time down on his Laravel Cloud build. Now, you might have noticed, I mean, we use Cloud, and yeah, we just use the normal build like it is here. But obviously, there are improvements you can make to this, and he kind of talks about them here by doing things in parallel. Actually, that's going to be a lot faster. And as he says, they fail as fast as possible. So there's something here, if you're using Laravel Cloud and you want to help speed up your build times, head over to this post, and hopefully you can take that and use it in your builds. Next up then, it's announcements from Statamic, so CMS that we use. Jack here talks about the new Forms 2.0 that's coming. So this looks really cool. There's a video to watch, but he also goes in and breaks down some of the changes and things that are happening. I really like the look of the multi-step form. That looks really cool. Being able to, put it on separate pages as it shows here, that's going to be really useful for some clients. And it does look like a really great builder that he's developing here. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to see that pretty soon. And then finally, we've got this post by Eric. Now this one, gates, policies, and middleware. It's a question that we're asked, a lot by junior developers and stuff like that. Should I be using gates? Should I be using policies? Should I be doing this in a middleware? Well, Eric goes into some detail here and talks about where you should be using them, what you should be using, and why you should be using them. So, if you're new to Laravel and you've been wondering what gates and policies are and, when you should be using them, this is a great post for you to check out. So that's it for this week. Hopefully you found something interesting there in that top 10. Don't forget, as I've said before, let the authors know, give them a shout out on Twitter that you appreciated their post. And if you've not signed up to the Artisan Weekly newsletter, do head over to artisanweekly.com and sign up, and check out previous editions, because you'll find that they contain more than 10 there. There'll be a couple of extras that we add in each week. And yeah, hopefully I'll get to see you all again next week.